none of the three candidates for president now, the two Democrats and the one Republican, has been a conservative in the past. The two Democrat candidates in their campaigns have both advocated socialism. They want the government to control everything. They try to convince the people that the people have a right to have anything they need and that the government will give it to them, which is a terrible philosophy for a free country. And in all dictatorships, all dictatorships are really socialists, where the government controls everything. And the people are totally dependent on the government for anything they do, anything they get. And some people in those socialist dictatorships get more than others, but they usually, the higher-ups, get a whole lot. And like Saddam Hussein was extremely wealthy, lived in a real luxurious life where the people were having a real hard time. But that's what happens. A lot of incumbent politicians love socialism because it gives them more power. And I think people need to be educated to understand this. And today, they don't get educated to understand what conservatism is. And the reason that conservatism is government by the consent of the governed, and that the courts can't change the constitutional provisions at all, and this country started out with the premise that to have a good government, you have the federal government does just a little bit, only the things necessary for a federal government, and that the state governments had all these rights to do things they want to do. And they weren't allowed to do it by the federal government, some of the court rulings and some of the other things that, and today, the average person doesn't realize that states are supposed to be free and independent states like the Declaration of Independence says. And I think education is the only way to get the government back to be a government by the consent of the governed. Yeah. Well, one other thing that is really needs changing is that and this is started by the federal courts, and a little bit of it has come down to state courts, but almost always state courts today are better than federal courts, and very often the U.S. Supreme Court, up until recently, has been very liberal, and the liberal factions who could not get Congress to adopt laws to support their agendas that they wanted passed have gotten liberal judges to rule that their agendas have to be put into effect. And that's a thing that hurt us, but I think we're getting better. We got 4 out of 9 Supreme Court judges now who are very good, and one more would be really good, because we get some of the other 5 will vote with those 4 on many things today that before, when we only had 2 conservative judges, it was very difficult for a conservative cause to win in the U.S. Supreme Court.
All right, back to the penumbra. New state.
Yeah. Well, one thing that has bothered me is that when the U.S. Supreme Court used the penumbra theory for the first time, and has followed it in many other cases, like in Roe versus Wade and others, I think the judges that did it were just making a serious mistake, because they didn't know what the word penumbra meant. It's a shadow. How can there be a shadow in the Constitution that rides a state that makes a state law unconstitutional when there are no words in the Constitution to do it. There can't be. But now that the Supreme Court has started talking about penumbras, it happens all the time. People go up there and argue their penumbras that didn't exist before. And it seemed like to me anybody that knows the meaning of the English language would know this by looking up the meaning of the word penumbra. So